Bienvenue! Oh, good morning. Come in here. The Atelier smells different this week, and I have to tell you why before we do anything else. I brought something in from a walk last weekend, a long, curved piece of driftwood, pale and smooth worn, about the length of my forearm, and it's sitting on the workbench and making the whole room smell faintly of sea and sun and dried salt. I did not plan for this. I picked it up off the path because it looked interesting, carried it home, set it down on the bench, and stood there for a while just smelling the room. You know that smell? The warm, dry salt of something that has spent a long time near the sea. It smells like being away somewhere. It has completely changed the space. Wednesday is the Atelier, the room for making things, for working with your hands. And today I want to open up the particular pleasure of the natural curiosity display, the collected thing, the arranged specimen, the small curated world of objects gathered from the sea. If you have been to a beach at any point this year, or know someone who has, or simply have a mantelpiece that wants more attention, this is your morning. Come in, I want to show you something. This Wednesday's invitation is for your hands. If you have ocean things, shells, sea glass, smooth, pebbles, anything gathered from water, get them out and set them on the work table. Then find a piece of string, twine, thread, kitchen string, wool in a neutral color, anything. Cut it into several lengths, roughly twice the length of your forearm. If you have a piece of driftwood, bring it out. If not, a fallen branch from the garden stripped of bark works well. Even a pencil will do for now, if you want to try the knotting before you have the right wood. The invitation: thread one thing onto one piece of string. One shell, one smooth pebble, one piece of sea glass. Tie it so it holds. That is where it starts. One knot, one thing hanging. The rest of the morning we build from there. Time for a reading that I've been saving for today, just for you. Philip Henry Gosse, a Victorian naturalist who spent an enormous amount of time on the coast of Devon and wrote, in 1865, a book called A Year at the Shore. Gosse was one of the originators of the public aquarium and spent his life making the case that tide pools deserved as much attention as any museum. He was right, and this is the evidence. He writes, "There is not a pool among the rocks, however small, but if you will sit patiently beside it for half an hour, you shall see things that will fill you with wonder. The sea anemone opens its crimson petals, the whelk proceeds on its mysterious errands, the hermit crab drags his borrowed house from shadow to shadow. It is not emptiness you are looking at, it is a world, entire and earnest, going about its business 3 inches from your knee." A world, entire and earnest, going about its business 3 inches from your knee. I find something very steadying about that. The idea that there is a complete world with its own errands and urgencies and domestic arrangements happening right beside you in a pool you might step over without looking. Gosse is asking us to look, not for a reason, just because the looking is worth it. Come on through. I've put on something that sounds like a beach at low tide. Very quiet, a little ambient, with the particular quality of being near water without being in it. Take a few minutes, write something down if you have to, or simply be here. feel calmer near water, even when the water is only in the music. Shall we get to work? Children at rock pools have a quality of attention I don't think I've seen in them anywhere else. Not the fidgeting of children in a waiting room, not the broad, excited running of children in an open beach. Children at rock pools are still. They crouch. They look extremely closely at very small things for extended periods of time. They notice what the adult beside them walked past without registering. A translucent shrimp, a small crab moving underneath a rock, a sea anemone that has closed itself up against a disturbance they caused 3 minutes ago and hasn't forgiven yet. I've seen a child spend 40 minutes at a single pool, 40 minutes of complete absorption, of a seriousness that no adult had taught her and no instruction had required. Just the pool and what was in it, and the absolute conviction that it deserved this much time. I think about this when I'm arranging small objects on a shelf. The seriousness of it matters. The attention matters. There's something in picking up a shell and turning it over carefully and choosing where to set it down that is, at its heart, the same impulse. The child at the rock pool, the adult with the shadow box, looking closely, finding something worthy of the looking. Let's move on. I want to show you what I've been doing with the driftwood. The driftwood wall hanging is one of the oldest forms of making I know. Pieces of natural material gathered from the ground, arranged on a horizontal bar, and hung. It appears in every culture that has lived near the sea or the forest. It is the closest thing to bringing the shore indoors without putting anything in a box. Let me walk you through it. The structure is simple, a horizontal piece of driftwood from which strings hang vertically. Each string carrying one or several found objects at different heights. The whole thing hangs from the loop of cord at the top. That is the entire structure. The strings cut 5 to 7 lengths of twine, each about twice the depth of what you want to be hanging. Fold each one in half. Push the folded loop up through the back of the driftwood and over the front edge. Then pull the 2 loose ends through the loop. This is a lark's head knot, and it holds without gluing. Space the strings evenly along the wood, a finger width apart. For shells with natural holes, the tide makes holes in shells near the edge. Look for them when you're collecting. Thread your string through and tie a knot below the shell, just large enough that it won't pull back through. The shell rests on the knot. For shells without holes, hold the shell flat against the string, wrap the string tightly around the narrowest point of the shell, usually at the top where it narrows before curving out. 2 or 3 times, then loop it back through and tie a double knot. This takes a minute to find the right grip, but once it holds, it holds. For smooth pebbles and sea glass, same wrapping technique. Find the flattest edge, place the string against it, wrap it the narrowest point 2 or 3 times, loop back. Heavier objects may need 4 wraps. Varying the heights. Before knotting your objects onto each string, hold each string up and decide where you want each object to sit. Some near the top, some near the bottom, some in the middle. The hanging looks most interesting when the objects fall at different depths. A straight horizontal line of shells is less interesting than a varied irregular one. When everything is tied, cut a slightly longer cord and loop it around both ends of the driftwood as a hanging cord. Knotting firmly at each end, hang it on the wall, step back, and look. It will not look exactly as you planned. Something will be at the wrong height, or 2 shells will sit together in a way you didn't intend, or the driftwood will lean slightly to one side and that will actually look better. Adjust, untie and retie. Move a pebble up or down its string by opening the knot and resetting it. The work of the hanging is mostly editorial. Gosse wrote about a world entire and earnest going about its business 3 inches from your knee. The hermit crab dragging its borrowed house, the anemone not yet forgiving a disturbance. The driftwood hanging does something similar. It brings a piece of the tide onto your wall, organized by attention, speaking quietly of the place it came from. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to have been made. All right, it's time to read a letter from someone who writes, I picked up a beautiful piece of driftwood on a coastal walk a few months ago. It's been sitting in a corner of my living room ever since because I love it, but I don't know what to do with it. I feel like it should be a shelf or a display or something, but I can't work out what. It just gets moved from corner to corner. Help? The driftwood knows what it wants. You just haven't given it the right context yet. Here's a simple test. Put it somewhere horizontal, on a mantelpiece, on a windowsill, on a sideboard or shelf. Does it want to be flat or does it want to lean? Some driftwood is a surface. Some driftwood is a sculpture. If it wants to be flat, if it has a fairly level top edge, lay 1 or 2 objects on it. A shell, a smooth pebble, 1 candle, nothing more. Let the driftwood be most of what you see. If it wants to lean, if it's curved or upright, lean it against a wall in a corner and put a single object at its base. Or stand it beside a taller plant. The driftwood is the statement. Everything around it is secondary. The mistake with a piece of natural material like driftwood is trying to make it part of an arrangement. It doesn't want to be part of an arrangement. It wants to be the thing. Give it a little space and let it be the entire point of the surface it lives on. You'll know when it's right because you'll stop moving it. The hanging is up on the wall beside the workbench, not where I thought it would go, but the light in this corner is better, and the driftwood had a slight lean to it that suits the space. A piece of sea glass near the bottom keeps catching the afternoon light and turning it pale blue-green. I keep stopping in the middle of other things to look at. It has been there 3 hours and it's already made itself at home. That is what something made for the wall does. It becomes part of the room. It earns its place by being looked at. Come back tomorrow. I'll be in the kitchen. Until then, take good care of yourself.